So as usual, I'm just a little bit late to this trend, but it's not an Eric West video if... Anyways, so I was actually given this suggestion by one of you guys in the Discord. If you're not a member, you can come on, go ahead and join. I'll leave a link in the comment section below. It's a pretty decent place to come and hang out. And essentially, you guys wanted to know my favorite Pokemon of every single type. So starting off with the grass type, I actually went with Turtwig. And while I do like the entire Turtwig line, first, second, and third forms, I actually like Turtwig itself specifically. One, because Pokemon Diamond was one of the first physical copies of a Pokemon game that I ever owned. In the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time, Turtwig was actually the starter Pokemon that I got after doing the little personality quiz. And in Diamond, it was the starter that I ended up choosing for the first time ever. I didn't look into, I didn't really have internet back then. Or at least I wasn't on it that much, so I didn't know what the final evolutions looked like. When I saw Chimchar, I really liked it, but I thought maybe they're gonna mess it up. When I saw Piplup, I said, oh man, that's really cute. Maybe he's not gonna be that strong of a final evolution, so I kind of just went with Turtwig. For the fire type category, my favorite Pokemon is Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is my favorite Pokemon because back in like 2010 or something along those lines, Heart Gold and Soul Silver had came out, and it was a really big deal here in my town. We actually caught a bus, my mother and I, all the way to a really big mall that we used to go to a lot when I was a kid. They were having a big release event around these two game titles, and they were actually giving away free t-shirts to anybody who bought them, and there was all sorts of other like side merchandise that you could have got. So it was really memorable because of that. My mom ended up buying both of them, and she told me to pick one copy, and then the other one was going to go to my younger brother. So I actually decided to pick the Heart Gold copy because while I had never played a second generation game at that point in my life, I had already owned a Lugia in my Pokemon Diamond copy that was actually traded to me by a friend. So me knowing a lot less about Ho-Oh was kind of appealing to the inner nerd in me who liked to try to complete Pokedexes and whatnot. For the water type category, my favorite Pokemon is actually Fion, and this also goes way back to when I was playing Pokemon Diamond for the first time. I had finally discovered what Wi-Fi really was, although I didn't understand the concept of it or what you're supposed to do with it. I wasn't aware Wi-Fi was basically just internet, and so I was talking to my childhood best friend, and he actually traded over a Manaphy to my game because he happened to find a action replay at GameStop, and so he was able to cheat himself in a Manaphy, traded it to me at like level 100, and I was like, oh man, I've never seen this Pokemon before. I don't believe the movie was out yet, or if it was, I just hadn't watched it yet. So Manaphy was actually really new to me, and then he told me that it's not a legendary Pokemon because it has a pre-evolution, which that's what we used to think was true back in the day. For a very long time, I remember spending time on my really old desktop trying to find answers about what Fion is, what it looked like, how you could possibly get it, and I just had no idea how to navigate the internet properly, let alone do a decent Google search. So Fion was always a massive mystery to me, and it always kind of sparked a powerful curiosity in my heart. So Fion holds a special place for the water category for me because of that. Now for the normal category, I actually had a very difficult time trying to decide. At first I wanted to choose Rattata. One, because Rattata was my very first ever shiny Pokemon, and I actually really liked the gold fur that it has in its shiny variant. That, and one of the first experiences that I ever had with, I guess you can say, competitive play in Pokemon was the Fear Rattata. So I just busted out laughing so hard when I was introduced to that Rattata just went from a Pokemon that I always looked down upon to a Pokemon that I just really kind of treasured, like a guilty pleasure. The other Pokemon I would have really wanted to put here would have been Snorlax. Snorlax has always been a big favorite of mine. I never actually really used him whenever I would catch him. I never actually used him when I would catch him in my Fire Red Leaf Green games. However, when I did take the time to sit down and train him up, just his absolute bulk was always something that I was missing in all of the teams I would build. But in the end, I actually decided to go for Staraptor, because when I think about generational birds, right, I had Pidgeot on my team for the longest amount of time, I guess you could say. Unpheasant was actually something that I really enjoyed, and I liked that they did a thing where the male and the female have a different variation on their looks. But admittedly, you know, Unpheasant isn't a very good Pokemon. So if I think about if I had the option to get any bird Pokemon from any region, Staraptor is really the one that comes to mind, just because its cry is beautiful. I remember seeing the anime and thinking about how insane it looked when it was pulling off a Brave Bird on somebody, and close combat was also really good. Whenever I was fighting the rival Barry in the Generation 4 games, I always had to send out my Staraptor to fight his to see which one of us had the better bird. So Staraptor is my choice for the favorite normal type Pokemon. Now this one's going to be a lot more typical, not necessarily for the same reasons as everybody else, but my favorite electric type Pokemon is actually Pikachu. You guys know from way back when I kind of associate with Pikachu as being like my little mascot. Pikachu was always my favorite just because I liked it, and as a little kid I used to try to build a team in Fire Red Leaf Green that resembled Ash's team. So you know, Pikachu was a must-have, and I'd sit there for like 1 or 2 hours in Viridian Forest just trying to find that, what was it, like a 5% encounter, until I finally got it. And I would never evolve my Pikachu just because I actually, even though I knew Raichu was a lot stronger, I prefer the appearance of Pikachu. So, you know, that's one of those things that I would always do. And my love for Pikachu only grew a lot more intense somewhere towards the end of elementary school, because that's when my childhood friend told me about the light ball. So once I found out what that was, and I again like was super like curious about it. Funny story actually, when one of my classmates first ever told me about the light ball, they pronounced it wrong and they say Pikachu gets stronger with a light bulb, and I was very confused. And he was like, yeah, it's easy to find, and sometimes Pikachu are just holding it. And I was just like, what the fuck? I was looking for something that didn't really exist, obviously, and I was just like, what the hell? And I remember we would go to Target, and whenever my dad was like, hey, I need to go buy this for so and so, and we would always pass by the appliances section, and I'd get really pissed off when I see the aisle full of light bulbs, because I'm like, god damn it, like, how do I give one of those to my Pikachu? And it wasn't for maybe an entire year later when I found out, oh, he pronounced it wrong. It's light ball, not light bulb. And yeah, I punched him in the face the next fucking day. Now for the Psychic type category, this one was actually really tricky. I really wanted to actually put Gardevoir, because Gardevoir is a Pokemon that I actually used to hate way back in the day, playing Pokemon XD, Gales of Darkness. Hashtag no spoilers, but there's a section in the post game you can do where you get to fight some very powerful trainers, and one of them had a Gardevoir, and that was the one that always beat me. Specifically, he would sweep my entire team with the Gardevoir. Then I remembered that there was another Psychic Pokemon who really holds a special place in my heart above all the others, and that is actually Lugia. So I had mentioned before how a friend gifted me a Lugia, and that was again because I had never played Generation 2 or 3. It was actually my cousin's neighbor. I would go to my cousin's house a lot because, you know, she had like plenty of space and whatnot. So dropping me off there for the day, my dad could go to work, my mom could do all the things that she needed to do, whether it was volunteering or going to check up on family in other cities and whatnot. They could leave me at her house, and you know, she had this neighbor that she always hung out with, and I thought he was just the coolest fucking guy ever. I kind of idolized him at the time. He was really nice to me, even though I was so much younger than him. And so he gave me a level 100 Lugia because he also had an action replay, and he was like, yeah, just give me like eggs or whatever the hell you don't want, I'll go release it for you. Some of you guys probably already know the backstory of the creation of this Pokemon that I talked about. I'll probably go ahead and post a link in the comments as well, or in the description somewhere, to the video where I found this out. But it's a very tragic and beautiful story of how Lugia came to be, and all of that is why Lugia is my favorite psychic type Pokemon. Now for the fighting type Pokemon category, I actually don't use fighting types all that often, and I know a lot of people tend to really lean towards Lucario, but I've never used Lucario until recently with Pokemon Unbound. I never really used him that much in Generation 4 because I never knew Riolu evolved with happiness, and so I just never could get it high enough to actually evolve. So I said, you know what, fuck Riolu, fuck Lucario. The movie was fucking awesome, but I give up. And there was one fighting type Pokemon that I could never resist adding to my team, and it was Conkeldurr. When I first found a Timber, it was automatically very, very good on my team because, again, I never really built a proper team back then, and I also never had very good physical attackers, so Timber and Girder were beautiful for whenever I needed to accomplish that. And once I finally got a second Nintendo DS, I was able to get Pokemon White and Black version, trade over my Girder, and then I had Conkeldurr, and that was a game changer for me. I was struggling the first time that I did the Elite Four, and once I evolved my Girder, it wasn't a threat to me anymore. It was beautiful. I used to put a Rocky helmet on him because it was the only item I had for him early game, and I just said, you know what, fuck it, that's your item forever now. And you know, you could go on the little cancerous tumor you have on the back of your head looking like Hey Arnold's fucking grandpa and shit. But yeah, Conkeldurr is my favorite fighting type. For the rock type category, again, not a type of Pokemon that I actually really use that often. I was gonna say Aerodactyl because when I would play Pokemon Yellow version, Aerodactyl was a Pokemon I always added to my team once I finally had access to it. I would sit there and train it up from like level 10 all the way to level 50 or whatever my team was, so to make it usable, which it had a very, very steep EXP curve, so that took forever, but I would still sit there and do it. This was before I knew what cheat codes were or how to even do them, and I was also very anti-cheat code back then, so I would sit there and spend maybe 3 days on just non-stop training up my Aerodactyl. So that's really why I put him as my favorite rock type. And then fast forward to when I finally got a copy of Pokemon Y version, and I found out by personal experience, because I didn't really keep up with the news all that much, I found out Aerodactyl was one of the Pokemon who got a Mega Evolution, and it was just such a great time to use. It had the rock hit ability, takedown was really, really strong, and yeah, Aerodactyl is my favorite rock type. Now for the ground type, this is another Pokemon that I actually started to use because of Generation 5. There was two really tough choices, but when I started to think about who I use a lot more across like all the different fan games and whatnot, this is something I actually never used the first time I played Black and White, or the second or the third. I only started using it recently, and it's really become such an essential part of my team that I rely on it all the time now, and that Pokemon is Excadrill. My Anna the Excadrill has been fantastic problem solver for lots of situations, for dealing with problematic fairy types, for getting through that electric gym that was giving me such a hard time. Even when Pokemon had Levitate or Air Balloons, my Anna was really doing a fantastic job of just running through them. And honestly, I kind of regret not evolving a Drillbur the first time around. I didn't know it evolved so late. I kind of lost my patience and gave up on it, and I regret doing that now, looking back. So Excadrill is my favorite ground type. Now for my favorite flying type, that was really difficult because I said, well, I could put like Snorlax or Rattata as my normal type and then put a bird as my flying type, but for similar reasons as Aerodactyl, I decided to select Altaria as my favorite flying type Pokemon. Had no idea what Swablu would evolve into. I thought Altaria was majestic, it was bulky, which again, like I said, I always am missing bulk on my team. And it just didn't disappoint, especially when I started finding out that it had Dragon Rage. That was amazing. Don't ask me about the gym leader who has an Altaria. I really didn't pay attention. I just kind of sped up through all the gyms, killed everybody, and went about my day. So yeah, Altaria, I took the time to sit down and train that thing up. Fast forward, fairy type becomes a thing. I thought that type combination was really, really dope. The mega evolution is really cool, and as you guys can see in Unbound, Altaria and its mega form has saved me quite a number of times. So, favorite flying type. Now for my favorite bug type, this, I didn't think about it for more than half of a second, because there's only ever been one bug type that I've ever really used, and that has been Butterfree. I've used it not only in the OG Gen 1 games and the Gen 1 remakes. I've actually used Butterfree in the Pokemon Ash Gray a lot of times. I would always keep it basically in my final team. It made my final team in Pokemon Sword and Shield as well. As soon as I found a wild Caterpie, I said, you know what? I don't care if it's gonna end up being terrible for me. I don't care, you know, if this game has some like really crazy Pokemon for the gym leaders. I'm going to add this goddamn Butterfree to my team, and I'm never going to box it, and it will always help me. And it fucking did, especially against Team Yell, since Team Yell was a dark type. And in Sword and Shield, by that point, you know, Butterfree actually has a significantly more powerful moveset and learn pool than I was actually accustomed to it having. So it was several times more powerful than I remembered it ever being capable of. And then not only the Dynamax, but the Gigantamax for Butterfree. That really sent it over the edge for me. So Butterfree has always had a special place in my heart, and it will continue to do so under my favorite bug type Pokemon. Now for my favorite poison type Pokemon, there's not too many poison types I use, and I decided that Venusaur is my favorite poison type because I sat down and I thought about, like, well, you know, there's a lot of Pokemon that are part poison, but how much do I use them as an actual poison strategy, or how much do I use them for whatever their other typing is? And Venusaur is somebody that I always use for, you know, his ability to slowly drain your health away with not only Toxic, but Leech Seed and access to Giga Drain as well. I think that really embodies what a poison type is supposed to do to an opponent, and how they're supposed to really drain you of your life force over time. But then also his ability to simultaneously wall out certain attackers with his bulk, but then recover his own health was always amazing. And I really like grass type starters as well. So Venusaur is my favorite poison type Pokemon. For my favorite dark type Pokemon, there was one who, just like Conkeldurr, always got me through difficult situations in the Pokemon Black and White games. I never really used him outside of those games, so it's been an incredibly long time. And it was difficult because I really liked the dark type category, but I decided Crocodile was my favorite dark type Pokemon of all time. I had no idea what Moxie was, so when I found it, and you know, I would send it out as early as possible, get a kill on something weak, keep it alive as long as I could. It would just keep racking up, and the potential was insane. I think I had an Adamant Crocodile too, which I didn't know what natures were then, but I knew Adamant was good for this specific Pokemon. So you know what, it all worked out. Now for ghost type Pokemon, I had to really think, because usually when I use a ghost type, I use it for stupid, spammy, probably not even that good of a moveset. But then I remembered that there was one ghost type that I fell in love with semi-recently, and it has served me very well in a lot of online battles on Pokemon Showdown, and that is the Galarian Corsola. Not only is it very bulky by itself, even though it's an uninvolved Pokemon, but I like the concept of its design, you know, the bringing attention to the dying coral reefs. I went to college in the city of Santa Cruz here in California, and there was a big seminar we had to attend for a couple of days for my art class, where they were bringing attention to the dying coral reefs as well. And you know, the city of Santa Cruz actually has a huge surfer and swimmer communities, so they have a passion for keeping waters clean and keeping ocean life sustainable and intact. intact. So it was really, really heartbreaking when we found out, you know, the history of people ruining coral reefs and whatnot, or them being just completely destroyed and killed off. So when I saw this, it gave me flashbacks of those days in college, and a lot of emotions swelled up, I'm not even gonna lie. So just on the creation alone, or on the concept alone, it was a fantastic Pokemon for me from the get-go. But then when I found out that it was a really solid Pokemon on top of that, and then when I started using it, it got through some of the legendary spam for me, I'm not gonna lie, and a Pokemon who can do that is always gonna be amazing to me. So Galarian Corsola is my favorite ghost type. For my favorite ice type, there aren't too many that I really tend to use. I typically don't really like ice type Pokemon, even though they have some really amazing moves available to them. But the one ice type Pokemon that I always really liked was Articuno. It was actually always been my favorite ice type Pokemon, because I just remember thinking how majestic it was. And I was a beta tester for Pokemon Go here in Los Angeles, California. So when, you know, the beta test rolls out and they say, hey, you know, you're going to choose one of these 3 teams, and I see that they're based on the legendary Pokemon, you know, based on how Pokemon typically tends to do things, I thought, hey, I'm going to choose this blue team, Team Mystic, because maybe you can only get the legendary that's based on your team. It was really fun, you know, those little wars that we had back then, and yeah, Articuno was beautiful. For my favorite steel type Pokemon, there typically aren't a lot of steel types that I like, just because I don't like the lack of, I guess, offensive power that some of them have. At least I felt that way back then. But Aggron was one that always really, really appealed to me, because I didn't use him my first time around playing Emerald. I said, okay, you know, Lairon's cool, but again, I don't really have the patience to sit here and find out what level he evolves at. I assumed he evolved in the 50s when I looked at Aggron's design. But the second time around, I sat down, I had some goddamn patience with myself. I finally got the Aggron, and I actually really, really liked what it was capable of. It was kind of just a juggernaut for me, despite its 4 times, you know, ground and fighting weaknesses. Then again, it was another Pokemon where once I get to Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I find out that Aggron has a Mega Evolution. I try it out, and I was like, whoa, this thing is like massive. And I started heavy slamming everything, and yeah, I mean, good times. For my favorite dragon category, I've told this story already, but my favorite dragon Pokemon is actually Dragonite, and that also goes back to my Black and White days, because Black and White had rotation and triple battles, and Black and White was the first game where I ever started going and battling people online. So I would go online, I would do triple battles, and I would actually go in with Altaria and with Dragonite. And so I had Altaria, who could fly. I had Dragonite, who is a flying type, and I would bring in Crocodile as well. So Crocodile with Earthquake, you know, Dragonite with Earthquake, and then there goes their first 3 Pokemon. So Dragonite, very fun days. Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Outrage, Draco Meteor. I was taking care of a lot of threats back then with it. So now for the final category for today's video, we have the fairy type category. And I thought to myself, okay, well, you know, I put Lugia for the psychic type. This is where I could put Gardevoir. But then I thought about another Pokemon that I actually spent a lot of time, you know, trying to train up, and that was Togekiss. Togekiss was one of the many new evolutions we had in Diamond and Pearl, and again, I wasn't really on the internet back then, so I had no idea the Togekiss evolution ever existed. I managed to find a Togepi, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll catch you for the Pokedex, whatever. You're here on this route with these other baby Pokemon, which, you know, was cool too, because the baby Pokemon I never knew were from Generation 2. I had never encountered them before until Generation 4. So I was like, oh damn, like these baby Pokemon are really cool. Fast forward to when I'm playing with one of my friends, they whip out a Togekiss against me, and I'm like, yo, I never knew what the hell this was, and it aura sphered me to fucking death. So that didn't go well. Then Jonathan was the one who introduced me to Serene Grace and the Air slash, you know, the flinch tactics and whatnot, and I was like, man, that's so annoying. I probably punched him in the fucking face too after that battle, but I was like, thank you for educating me. I was just really impressed with all the things it was capable of. So Togekiss is my favorite fairy type of Pokemon, and that is my list. You know, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this because I know a lot of Pokemon on these kind of videos end up being the same and for the exact same reasons. I really didn't want it to be boring, and I wanted to pick not only just Pokemon that I really loved for every type, but Pokemon that I had some sort of story and actual connection with and genuine love for. So I hope that this was entertaining for you guys. Be sure to stick around for future videos on the Homeboys channel, as well as the individual channels in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Later, people.